Call to order the regular meeting of the Governing Board. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show all board members are present, and Dr. Weitenheimer. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Awards and achievements. Are we here? Yeah, here. Okay.
Good evening, President Fisher, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Weitenheimer, and special guests. Tonight, we recognize our Winter State Sports Champions. We begin with Boulder Creek senior Stone Crooks, the state champion in wrestling in the 126-pound weight class. Stone was the runner-up during his freshman year, but an injury and illness kept him off the podium during the state championships the following 2 years. So for his senior year, his coach says Stone stayed true to form, focused on his goals, and stood on top of the podium at this year's state tournament. Stone has been a 3-year team captain who leads by example. Teammates see his work ethic and mental toughness. His wrestling motto is, "You don't have to be the best athlete. If you work hard and believe in yourself, you will always prevail," which is exactly what he did. Congratulations, Boulder Creek Senior and state wrestling champion Stone Crooks. We invite his family and coach up for the picture. His dad and the coach, and his mom. Congratulations. Our second winter sports state champion is Deer Valley High School senior Carlos Vargas, state champion in wrestling in the 106-pound weight class. Vargas dominated his weight class, finishing the year with a Deer Valley High School record of 55-1. As team captain, he capped off the season in complete control at the state tournament, allowing only 2 points in his final 4-match blitz. Speaking about Carlos's dominating season and state championship, his coach said, "I think Carlos saw the finish line and went full sprint to his title. It's so rewarding to watch a wrestler come through the program and earn the right to be a champion. Carlos, above being a tough wrestler, is an exceedingly great young man. We all gain happiness from seeing him succeed. Congratulations, Deer Valley High School senior and state wrestling champion, Carlos Vargas." And we invite his family and coaches to come up for the photo.
Governing board reports. Ms. Ordway, would you like to start?
No, but I will. No, I'm kidding. Oh, this time of year is so fabulous. There's so many things to choose from. You could probably go to something or 2 things or 3 things every night of the week. Not that I do that. Well, sometimes I do. Anyway, one of the things I just wanted to talk about, it is that time of year for prom season. And I am, again, doing the Calling All Fairy Godmothers. There are drop-off points at all 5 of our high schools, and that program allows our students and students from other districts to come and get glamorized with clothing for prom, so that's not something that would prevent them from going. So I have my stuff at Goldwater High School this Saturday from 11 to 2. It'll be an open house, and then from there, my number is on a flyer that you'll get, and I think Monica will put out for me. And I can meet you any evening or after school to get your dresses. So dresses and suits are there, so feel free to donate and to utilize it. Thank you.
Ms. O'Brien?
Thank you. As Ms. Ordway said, there is so much to talk about. I had the opportunity to attend the Mandarin Immersion program overview, where we had Paradise Valley and Cave Creek school district representatives. It was an amazing discussion about language immersion programs and what that opportunity does provide to our students, and what are some of the next steps, especially for Deer Valley. It was very exciting to get to talk to those other school districts, as well as some representatives from the Department of Education. I am continued to be amazed, and I hope this is taken in the right light, by our students. And part of that is because I think we continue to hear how poorly we are doing in Arizona, but we are doing wonderful things with our students. Thank you to our staff and everyone who continues to help them grow. I also had the opportunity to attend the Arizona School Board Association Lobby Day and meet with some incredible governing board members from across the state. And one of those was the board president from Lake Havasu Unified School District. And I apologize, board members, I forgot to bring it out to you, but I will make sure it gets into your box. She put together this spreadsheet, and it's 2-sided, but it explains funding for her very conservative constituents in her school district, and they were trying to pass an override. So I will start to work on this, and then hopefully maybe somebody from Mr. Miglorino's staff will make sure I'm understanding the numbers correctly, because I think this will be an incredible tool, not just in talking about facts for overrides or bonds, but in general, funding for education. We know that that's an important priority for all of us, and so I will share that with you, governing board members. And the last thing I want to mention is Sandra Day O'Connor High School's Air Force Junior ROTC had 40 cadets who put in approximately 160 hours to clean up some graffiti on the hill that is on the state trust land that O'Connor is on. It is now done, I am happy to say. And I just want to tell you that I spent 2.5 hours on that hill about a week and a half ago. So my hat is off to those 40 young men and women who spent all those hours, because I think I'm still suffering from those couple of hours. So thank you again to them and to everything that you all do.
Ms. Tweedy.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to attend a carnival at Mountain Shadows, and I really enjoyed myself. I saw a lot of my former colleagues, met some staff members and community members. I also went to the musical at Deer Valley High School, and the students did a fabulous job. The musical was really funny. Today I was able to visit Las Brisas and Terramar with some of the academic facilitators, and I appreciated the opportunity to meet with them and learn about their positions. I also wanted to thank Monica for including the budget information in the most recent newsletter. I do believe more open communication during the budget process is a big step in the right direction, so thank you. On another note, I also wanted to discuss another matter. This week, I was notified that the adoption of the new science curriculum will result in additional costs designated at the school level. Upon following up on this matter, I was informed that K-8 campuses and middle schools were asked to cover 25% of the expenses of the Chromebooks. This cost will be about $4,500 for most K-8 schools and $9,000 to $15,000 for middle schools, depending on the number of science classrooms. It's certainly not my intent to make anybody here feel uncomfortable, and I did attempt to resolve this matter privately, but I don't have any other mechanism for communicating with the board other than to make a public statement, so that is just my reason for doing.
Do you have a board agenda item that you're
Yeah.
requesting or something with
Yes,
that?
I am, and I'm trying to
okay.
explain the rationale for it.
Okay.
And this is a current event. It happened this week.
Okay, I just don't
So
want to
for
know
those
if it
two
has to go
reasons.
somewhere to be or
Oh,
to be
yeah, it's going
agendized.
somewhere. Thank you, Ms. Fisher. So anyway, the information was not included in the presentation of the materials at the last board meeting, and I do believe the governing board had a right to be provided with these facts prior to voting on this item. The additional cost that were not revealed are substantial, and as a result, I was prevented from making an informed decision and discussing the implications of the additional site-based costs with other board members. Since I was not able to weigh all the facts prior to my vote, due to the omission of this information, I am requesting that the textbook order be placed on hold and this item be placed on the agenda at our next board meeting for further discussion. I would like the opportunity to better understand the school level impact of this adoption and the opportunity to consider all relevant financial implications. It may turn out that most schools wanted to use their funds to support this adoption, or that other board members still support this decision. That is not the issue. The issue is that the board has a right to have discussions and vote on items with all the facts presented. And at the board retreat, I requested that I be provided with all the pros and cons prior to voting on any item. And despite agreement among all parties that this was reasonable, my request was not honored. Therefore, I'm hoping my agenda request will be granted. Thank you.
Dr. Weitenheimer, because this is an agenda item that's already been completed, if you could find out legally what we can and cannot do, and then we'll discuss it. I don't know that we legally can bring it back. It's already been approved.
I think also then find out if we had any right to know all the financial implications of our decision prior to voting on the matter. I want to know my legal right to be provided with information as well.
If you could share us with Dr. Weitenheimer whatever information, he'll get legal opinion and provide us what we can and can't do.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Frank?
Well, I would just like to echo, but share that I had some concern with this also, and would also request it to be agenda item if that's legally allowed. It shouldn't be taken as an insult to anyone, and I think as we move forward with more digital books as opposed to the hard copies, there are going to be associated costs with the equipment or Chromebooks or iPads or what have you, the technology to make those work. I think in the past, that's not something that's ever been needed to be presented to the board with a textbook adoption. Perhaps I'm incorrect about that. So I think it's a good learning experience for all of us. I would like to also mention that I had the pleasure of attending Mountain Shadows Leader and Me Assembly a few weeks back. It was a very impressive program. The kids were very impressive. I really enjoyed the student-led school tour, and it was especially meaningful for me because the last time I was at Mountain Shadows, it was to see my youngest son be promoted from 6th grade. So it was really good to be back. I would also like to thank anyone who has contacted me to share concerns, priorities. As you may guess, board members do receive quite a few emails, and I haven't received any phone calls yet, but I would encourage people to contact me by email and just add, please don't text me. Autocorrect is not my friend. You might get some very interesting responses. And to my youngest son, if he's watching, I'm sure he's watching live stream right now, I really had no idea what that emoji meant. I'm so sorry. And that's my report.
Okay, I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I did attend the Deer Valley, the play at Deer Valley, and each time I attend one of these plays, I've got to tell you, these kids are, they're just fabulous. I've seen professional plays, you know, that are on tour, that are of equal quality. These kids are just, they're beyond awesome. And I also, because my son drags me there every opportunity he gets, he absolutely positively loves Deer Valley High School. Had the opportunity to hear a poem that a teacher had wrote, and I hope that we are still looking for a way to share her poem, because it, for everyone who's ever had a day in education where you say, why am I doing this? I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. I could get a career somewhere else. Her poem just speaks exactly to why, and to just the beauty of our kids and why we do what we do. I also got to yesterday shadow one of our athletic trainers. It is amazing how they care for our kids and the things they do. You know, one of the things I kind of giggled with them, because I remember in sports, you know, I went to some small schools, played volleyball, and you know, you'd dive for a ball and you'd slide across the floor and your head would hit the side of the bleachers, and your coach would be like, well, you better shake it off and get up because I don't have another player for your spot. And I mean, there was just, but these days our kids play hard and we care for them hard. And so that was very impressive. I am enjoying my spring break because we're on spring break, and before all of our Deer Valley people go on spring break next week, I know there's times, because I too have scheduled what time I have to work each day through my spring break, and I know there may be some of you that have to as well. I just really hope that you take the opportunity, take that week off to refresh yourself, take that break, love your kids, love your spouses, love your dog, your house, and you know what, go love yourself. get a pedicure, manicure, even the guys. I went for a pedicure yesterday. There was a man there getting his done too. Just take care of yourselves, because what you do is important. Our kids need you and we need you. And so, since we probably won't see, well, if you come to the study session, we'll see you, but otherwise, if we don't see you before then, please enjoy your spring break off. That concludes mine. Superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. So it's spring, and I know if you go outside, it feels like summer. And if you go up north, it feels like winter. But we really are in spring, and the activities prove all of that. There are tons of things going on. But I want to highlight one. This past week, I had a Live with Dr. V at Desert Sky Middle School, and had the absolute pleasure to meet a high school senior from Sandra Day O'Connor High School, Kailash Raman, and he sent me a very professional letter asking if he could come to the Live with Dr. V and invite people to come to a very special event that he is co-sponsoring at Sandra Day O'Connor. He won our hearts, and so he came tonight to extend an invitation to you. So you're it.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. V. It's really our pleasure to be here, and my name is Kailash Raman.
My name is Dana Rasmussen.
And we'd like to invite all of you to attend the first ever SDOHS STEM conference. The goal of this event is to promote science, technology, and engineering within DVUSD. And so we have a quick 1-minute video that we'd like to.
The promotional video that some of the schools
Explore. Explore your passion for math and science. Explore your future career in engineering, medicine, or any other science and technology field. Sandra Day O'Connor High School invites you to the first ever SDOHS STEM conference. Don't miss out on this golden opportunity to learn about the exciting innovations happening today in STEM. This event will feature a series of talks by industry leaders who are paving the way in cutting-edge fields, from biotechnology to aerospace to virtual reality. You'll also get to experience some of the latest technologies and actually try out a virtual reality simulation for yourself. The conference will take place on Wednesday, May 17th from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at Sandra Day O'Connor High School. Visit www.sdohsstem.eventbrite.com to register today. Seats are limited, so sign up as soon as possible to reserve your spot. You will discover what innovation truly means at the 2017 SDOHS STEM Conference. See you there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so just, we can actually go past this.
Our conference aligns with the Deer Valley Unified School District vision and mission.
So as you saw in the video, this event is going to feature a variety of different guest speakers within different fields in science and technology. And we're really looking to make this an event that is open to all of DVUSD. So it will be taking place on May 17th from 4 to 6:30 p.m. And we're inviting teachers, administrators, and students from across the district.
So at the program, what will happen is it'll feature a series of industry leaders, speakers, and up on the PowerPoint you see those are our speakers that will be there from Honeywell, Perfdop Technologies, some very cool speakers. Students will also get a chance, as well as administrators and faculty, to communicate with these industry leaders, to ask questions, to interact, and learn about the very cool and exciting innovations happening today.
That's pretty much all we have to present, and we're asking attendees to register at sdohsstem.eventbrite.com, and the password is sdohsstem517. We're getting this information posted on the working to get it posted on the DVUSD website, so it's available for anyone who is interested in registering. So thank you for your time, and we appreciate it.
You guys were terrific. Thank you very much. Ms. Fisher, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Fiscal and Business Services, Jim, you're on.
President Fisher, members of the board, Dr. Weitenheimer, with apologies for my voice, this is about as best I can muster, so if you'll bear with me. We have 3 reports to share with you this evening, starting with the student enrollment report through the 123rd day of this school year, showing about 220 students fewer, or about 0.7%. Comparing that same point in time the previous year. That's been consistent for the last several weeks. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the student enrollment report before I move on.
Seeing none? Go ahead.
So the district financial report is the next report. And a little bit of good news here. So we're showing just over $800,000 worth of projected carry forward for the year. For this budget year, or fiscal year 17, as we refer to it as. Comparing that to last month, so month over month, we picked up about $200,000. And year over year, we picked up almost $500,000. So a year ago, we were at about $336,000, so considerably more than we had a year ago. And we will be able to present that information during the study session scheduled for this Thursday as part of an update to the budget. And before I move on, I'll just make sure there aren't any questions regarding the financial reports.
Seeing none?
Okay, the final report is the Auditor General District Spending Report. Used to be referred to as the Classroom Dollar Report. Just one note that I want to make. This information is, well, I'll probably make several points throughout this presentation, but before I get started, I should say that this information is from a year ago. So fiscal year 16 is the 2015-16 school year. We have done many things since this report, since the information that's contained in this report, and we won't be able to learn about that until a year from now when we see the Auditor General's report for fiscal year 17. The report is written into statute, so the Auditor General is required to produce it annually, and it comes out typically at the end of February each year. It does, as the name was originally founded, that being the classroom spending report, it was initially set up to determine what percentage of the district's budgets was being spent in the classroom. That definition has changed over time, but that information is still contained, and they have since altered the report enough that they now call it just the district spending report. Just a footnote here, this only includes traditional public school districts, so charter schools are not included in this report. And then finally, new for fiscal year 16 was a change in the Uniform System of Financial Reporting, USFR, as we refer to it as, in which any post-employee benefits that are offered, which we do offer in Deer Valley, had to be charged to the administration account code. Previously, they would have been charged to function 1000, because predominantly those benefits go towards retirees, and 70% of our population, of our salary dollars, go towards certified teachers. So that's a change for fiscal year 16. You'll see that in some of the numbers as we move forward. This slide shows our position amongst the peer districts. I should clarify some definitions here. The Auditor General uses what we refer to as peer districts. They name those peer districts. They're listed here. We further break down this information to what we call our comparable districts. The comparable districts include Chandler, Gilbert, Paradise Valley, Peoria, and Scottsdale School District. Sometimes we throw Dysart in there just to mix things up, but they're all large K-12 districts in Maricopa County. The peer districts are established by the Auditor General, so we don't have control over them. We don't necessarily think we compare as closely to some of these schools, including the Tucson Unified School District, but our position in terms of the percentage of dollars directly in the classroom did not change. We're third in the state at 58.5%. That's slightly less than last year, and one of the big factors in that is that post-employee benefit change that I mentioned previously. So what ended up happening is we moved about 1.5% of dollars spent out of direct instruction into administration. I will comment that there is some debate over what we sometimes refer to as classroom support. And classroom support would include not only direct classroom dollars, but also student support dollars, as well as instructional support. And that's a definition that's more broadly used as the direct impact to students. The Auditor General does not recognize that in their report. So that kind of showed you how we spent our money. Here are the results of how our students did, and they did better than any of the peer group average, or the average for the peer group. I shouldn't say any of the peer group. You can see we rank fourth, and you can see 48% passage in math. The average was 44%, 50% in English language arts, and 71% on science aims, when the peer average was 63%. The report also contains cost measure comparisons. This information is even part of our district scorecard. I think you'll hear Dr. Smith speak about this after, as part of his information he's going to share with the board this evening. And you can see that with the exception of our transportation cost per mile, all of these metrics are low or comparable for our district. So I think that is something that's worth noting. Our cost per mile, we did make some improvements in both cost per mile and cost per rider, but we think there's still some opportunity there that we need to explore. I mentioned the peer districts, so the Auditor General report itself will reference the state average as well as peers, but we like to look at those comparable averages, so I just provided that information here. So the financial metrics, it should be worth noting that this is the final year where our M&O override was limited to 10%. So our total dollars that we received were about 4.5% fewer than those comparable districts. And so this is showing what the cost per pupil, the same financial metrics that we saw here, just with those comparable districts. And so these are more comparable in our mind than the peer group that the Auditor General report uses. And you can see here, we went from just highlighting again or noting the transportation cost per mile, we went from $4.42 down to $4.34. So we made some improvement there, but we still have some work to do. We actually reduced that cost per mile, where you can see our comparable districts actually increased by a dime from $4 to $4.10 per mile. The dollar amount per student, you can see here, just under $6,900 at $6,880 for us in 2016, a slight decrease over the previous year, whereas the comparable districts are at $7,181. Just for comparative purposes, the state average is $7,746, considerably more. That is also the number that you'll hear quoted in national rankings of where the state is. They don't necessarily compare us specifically, Deer Valley, but the state average considerably more than what we benefit from. Again, that number is expected to increase as a result of the M&O override, increasing from 10% to 15% when we look at this data a year from now for fiscal year 17. The report also includes a stress assessment, and they rank here where there might be concerns based on some measurements that they have. This information here essentially tells us what we've heard from other sources, including the rating agencies of our bonds, that we do have a diminishing reserve balance, and both in operating reserve as well as capital reserve. And that is part of a decision that has been made, a strategic decision, to use some reserves until we were able to allow the voters to consider the M&O override. Since that has been decided back in November of 2015, we are more structurally balanced, so I don't expect the reserve balances to necessarily increase, but we won't be depleting reserves, at least in the current year, fiscal year 17, the way the budget is established. I mentioned the transportation results, so I wanted to show what that ranking is. This is a different group of peers than we looked at in the classroom percentages. And you can see we're third on the list. We actually are considerably below the average cost per rider for our group. I'll just make a note here. This is my opinion. I think the peer group is not representative of those that we should compare ourselves with. There are a couple elementary school districts in this comparison group, and the transportation demands are considerably different for an elementary school district than they would be for a district that serves a high school population. Just a note on that sheet. In prior years, we were at the bottom, so we are making improvements in that regard. So just some quick conclusions. We do compare positively amongst our peer groups, even better when you compare ourselves to the state, whether that's on any one of the metrics of the report. We do that with less money. We've noted that. So we're 4.3% below the comparable group, 6.5% below the peer group, and 12.5% below the state average in dollars per student. As we noted, still some opportunity, we think, within the transportation department, and I think that we're up for that challenge, especially with the staff that we have in that department. And it is worth noting that we did make improvements on the cost per mile. We are now considered low in that category. And then they noted the declining operating reserve is causing added financial stress, and that is something that that we noted, and it's something that we will continue to address as we develop future budgets. Kind of a teaser for Thursday evening, maybe. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Ms. Hardaway.
Jim, just for context for the people that are here and those that are watching, who exactly is responsible for the, it may sound obvious, Auditor General report, but who makes the definitions and decides where the pieces of the pies go? Pieces of the pie. It's Pie Day today.
President Fisher and Ms. Ordway, the definitions of how things are categorized, that's all contained within the Uniform System of Financial Records, the USFR. So the Auditor General determines that, and it follows a federal standard to determine what gets coded to what.
So if one wanted to actually make it make sense, in my opinion, make sense, maybe others, how would you go about doing that?
Well, it does make sense. It's just it's how you report it, in my opinion. So the data is there, and it's important for it to be consistent, so that if you're trying to make a comparison, especially to maybe another state, that there is some that the data is representative of what you're trying to compare, and so that is built into the USFR. It's how you report what information is broken out. So I don't know it's as much in the definitions of how we code things as much as it is how it gets reported.
And where would that be?
The Auditor General makes that determination in the report that they issue.
Okay, that's great. And then my next question is, with our 5% increase coming, from the 15% that we've only been able to utilize the 10%, will we actually be able to catch up, or will our comparable districts be ahead because they've got something that's going to come to fruition too?
Yeah, so President Fisher, Ms. Ordway, I think that we'll probably still be below the comparable average because Peoria also was able to get an override increase in their district. So the average I would expect to increase in general, not only from our 5%, but from Peoria's. And so we'll be chasing kind of a moving number, a moving target there. And but we'll have to see because those are M&O dollars, and it depends on how they spend those dollars. So I think we'll be below those comparables. I know we will be below the state. We'll be below the peers as well, but we certainly will see a small increase due to the good fortune of the voters approving our M&O override.
And I thank you for that.
Ms. O'Brien?
Thank you. Mr. Miglerino, because the rules come from the USFR, that then allows the difference in not including those costs, the instructional support in the classroom spending. Is that, even though the state as a whole said those could be considered classroom dollars, that's why they're not there, because it's not in the USFR? Is that correct?
President Fisher, Ms. O'Brien, I think that's, I won't say it's inaccurate. It's accurate, but I think they're making the distinction between direct instructional dollars in those the classroom, so those things within Function 1000. I think the distinction is what are those things that directly impact students, and that would be where you would include the other two categories. So I'm not trying to mince words here. I think it's, it's important to know exactly how many dollars directly were spent in a classroom, but I think it's also important to know how many of those dollars would directly impact students themselves. For example, speech services, although they directly impact a student, are not considered a direct classroom expenditure, as an example.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I think I had misunderstood the change in our state. That covers it. Thank you.
I guess I'm the only one left. I just have to for both Ms. O'Brien and for the remainder of the board, when you're looking at talking to our constituents on funding our school, I know we need to do it statewide. The first thing I did when we get this report, you can go onto the Auditor General's website and you can see everybody's report. And I have to just give kudos to Jim and to our district, because if you look at other districts, they do have more, and we still do better with what we have. My opinion, I mean, you can look at the numbers, but I am very impressed when you look at other districts that have high administrative costs, high transportation costs, high building costs, and Deer Valley has managed to really hold well with what we have, and I just wanted to give you kudos, because when I look at these reports, because the first thing I did do was pull out all my favorite folks who I know or whatever, and I just got to say Jim has done a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Data analysis, Scott.
Good evening, Governor Fisher, members of the governing board. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the district balance scorecard. I'm going to try a little experiment tonight, so and I'm hoping it works. I have a little short PowerPoint here I'm going to present you, and then we're going to switch to some actual live kind of spreadsheet, and I'm going to navigate a little bit, not with you, but for you. My intent here is not for you to get on the portal right now and get to the scorecard and navigate with me. And my intent is to give you a tool and reference materials that allows you to do that, and then use those as a resource and me as a resource for anything else you want to do with the scorecard. So we're calling this the district balance scorecard. Basically, I want to break that apart real quick. Scorecard, it's the things we think we should be measuring, and the reason we think we should be measuring is because they're things that we want to improve as a district. They are directly aligned to all 4 strategic priority areas and all 28 key strategic objectives, and category 4, the Baldrige criteria, measurement, analysis, and knowledge management. By balanced, we're saying just that it covers all of the spectrum of things that we're trying to work on as a district. You see the 4 kind of areas that I've mentioned there: academic, financial, non-financial, and perceptual data. And then finally, district. The word district refers to most of these measures. All these measures eventually roll up to a district level measure as opposed to specific schools. You'll see in a minute that we also have school scorecards, which will focus on the school. So this is where the resource for you starts. This is the landing page of the portal. So once you log in the portal, you would come right here. If you would just scroll down a couple of times on the right-hand side, you'll come to this beautiful picture of our superintendent, and you'll see here a little little link which goes to the data analysis and accountability page. If you click on that link, you'll come to a worse picture, but you'll come to a set of recurring data reports here. Under those set of recurring data reports, those are the reports we as a department continue to update. Some of them are on an annual cycle, some of them more often, but underneath that you'll see a little opportunity to select scorecards. Scorecards will take you right to this section. I know it's hard to read for the audience, but this basically shows 3 documents: the district balance scorecard, a thing I call performance measure record sheets, and then my performance measure record sheet status. The scorecard is what we're going to look at right now. It has all those metrics and things that we're tracking as a district. If you have a question about, well, what really is this measure, how do we get it, how do we find it, what's the formula, then you go to the performance measure record sheets. Each measure we have in the scorecard has a record sheet that gives you the detail of all the things behind that measure. And then the status sheet is just kind of telling you, hey, it's kind of reminding you, hey, these are fluid documents. They're continuing to be updated. They're continuing to evolve. Sometimes we come up with new ones. Sometimes we don't have the data yet. Sometimes we're waiting for a cabinet to get to it and evaluate it. So those are the 3 documents that you can use to understand our scorecard. Okay? So I just did this slide for you. That's what I'm talking about in those 3 documents I just showed you. Okay, so tonight, in alignment with Mr. Migliorino's presentation he just gave, I'm going to look at a couple of measures that are associated with some of the Auditor General report measures. This here is what you should pull up when you pull up the scorecard. It's a spreadsheet. You can play with it. You can click on anything. You can go anywhere. You can't break it. And if you do break it, just close it and open it again. All of the blue things are linked to somewhere. This will take you to email. That'll email me a question or a comment or a suggestion you have. This will take you to our strategic plan. This will take you to the detail about that specific measure. Okay, I made it big so we can see it better, but if I click over to the right a little bit, I can see kind of what is the summary of our rating so far. And I can tell you, you can see what are the latest updates that I put in here, and you can go straight to a specific priority area if you want. So I'm going to click on this priority 4. It's going to take me down to priority 4, and I see what we're measuring in the area of excellence in organizational improvement and accountability. Specifically, though, I'm going to scroll all the way down to this measure right here. This is a measure which we call monitoring costs. It's the Auditor General cost ratings. If I click on that, like any of these highlighted areas, it takes me to a tab that talks specifically about that measure. Okay, so I have first a definition. It's from the Auditor General Classroom Spending Report. The report's efficiency measures, blah, 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 cost per pupil, cost per square foot, square footage. And so you can read the definition of that measure and understand it a little bit. Again, if you want more detail, please go to the performance measure record sheet. Okay. Right below the definition is how we are evaluating this as an executive cabinet and as a district. We have 2 things we're evaluating. What's our current status with this district, with our district, and where are we going? What's the trend in our district? We have established there are 6 measures that you'll see in just a second when I show you the data, that in order for us to call ourselves above range, we're doing better at least than we should be, or at least as well as we should be, we got to have all measures comparable or below our peer districts. If we have more than one that's high or very high comparable to our peer districts, we're going to say we're below where we want to be. So let's look at the data real quick. This is very similar to what Jim just showed you with the Auditor General report. It just got multiple years on it. You see the 7 categories here for costs. There's one category that they don't measure, so there's really 6 that they measure. I put the data here anyway, and you just saw this on Jim's report here. You just see a couple more years of the trend as our trend is going up in students per admin position, and the peer in the state has stayed relatively the same. But what I'm really interested in is how are we doing in these other areas in terms of cost per pupil, cost per square foot, et cetera, et cetera. And you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these areas are comparable or lower than our other districts. And one, as Jim just mentioned, cost per mile is very high. So my rating here would be that 1 out of 6 continues to be high, the same as high or very high, the same as it was last year. So you see where we were the previous 3 years and how we dropped over the last 2 years. This is a good thing, just to remind you. And finally then, based on this logic I had up above, how do we rate ourselves? Cabinet just did this on Monday. You know, in 2016, we had 1 measure higher than the peer average, so we're within range, if you remember that criteria I had up above. And the trend is mixed, but you know what? I argued to Cabinet, and they agree with me. I'm going to call this a downward trend for right now. It looks like a downward trend, which again is a good thing. This is the last time we evaluated. When we evaluated last year, we were still within range, and I called the trend a mix. So if I jump back to the scorecard, you'll see that rating right here. We're within range, and we have a good trend. And then this is when it was last rated. This is who rated it. You can see some of them in here. It's been the Scott Smith rating so far. And we bring these to Cabinet every week, a couple of them, 3 to 4 to 5, and rate them in Cabinet, and eventually all of these be rated by Executive Cabinet. And then the last one I want to look at, you also just saw in the Auditor General report, is classroom spending. The definition from the Auditor General spending report, I'm looking specifically here at all 3 areas that Jim talked about: spending for instruction, spending for student support, and spending for instructional support. And then I divide it by the total operating cost, total operating spending. Here's the status here. If we're lower than our comp average or the state average, we are not where we want to be. If we're higher than both the comp and the state, and at least 6 of the 9 comparable districts, we're above. And so you know already from looking at Jim's report, we're within range, but let me show you the data. Here's the data over the last 3 years. This shows Deer Valley here, the peer average, the state average, and then those 9 comps that Jim mentioned in his report. You see the drop that Jim mentioned in here. This is now a combination of all 3 of those spending area functions, 1,000, 2,100, and 2,200. And you can see we're still better than the state, but right below the peer average. We're better than 1, 2, 3 of our comp districts, so only 3 out of the 9. So our latest evaluation as a cabinet, we're not satisfied with this. We're lower than the comp average, higher than the state, higher than only 3 comparables. We're below where we think we should be, and the trend is mixed. You can see there's no trend here in the Deer Valley average. So I'm going to jump back again to the scorecard, and that's reflected here, and we're below where we want to be, we think, as a district, with a kind of a mixed trend right here. That's basically what I wanted to show you, and I wanted to give you a tool to be able to get there, to play with it. You can go back and look at any of the strategic priority areas. You can look at academic results, perceptual results, et cetera, and go look at the detail. If you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, please let me know. We want to continue to improve this and evolve this. Be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. O'Brien?
No, I was just leaning forward. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
My mic's not on, so. Well, you've certainly put a great deal of work into this tool. Who do you see as being the target audience? And maybe I missed it at the beginning of the presentation. Is it just on the portal, or is it also on the website?
Ms. Fisher, President Fisher, Ms. Frank, right now it is just on the portal. I believe eventually, as we kind of get it less less changing, and in, kind of in place where we're just updating the measures, that it should be a publicly available document.
So then you see this as being a way of communicating out to the public exactly where we are, what we're working on, in a way that non-data people could look at it and be a little more user-friendly.
Yes, that would be ideal.
For the general public, but I think what you've done is fabulous.
Thank you.
Ms.
I do
O'Brien.
also want to just say thank you, because I think that down the road, this could be an incredible tool for our constituents to see where we are at and what we are really doing. It provides an increased transparency for our district. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Old business.
Okay. So this one. All right. I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the guaranteed maximum price in the amount of $7,600,000 for the Desert Sky Middle School modernization project to McCarthy Building Company using the construction manager at-risk methodology.
Can I get a second?
Second.
President Fisher, members of the board, Dr. Weidenheimer. This is as we previewed it for you at the last board meeting, and just with a little more detail as to the breakdown. Pending the outcome of the vote, I'll be sitting on the edge of my seat here. We are working on finalizing a contract with with McCarthy Building Company, and they are scheduled to start on Friday of this week. Again, no pressure on you guys.
Yeah, we make them sweat a little bit.
But with spring break meeting next week, we have an opportunity to actually get started on the campus, and due to the generosity of the staff, making some accommodations for us, and so we're anxious to get started. Again, it does require your vote, though.
All those in favor? Okay, Darcy.
I just had a clarifying question, and I did go back and look at the presentation. So I received an inquiry about the 500,000 in adjacent ways, and when I went back and looked at the tape, or the recording of the last meeting, it's my understanding that's to move the cafeteria, right? And that's a safety concern in its existing location?
President Fisher, Ms. Tweedy, no, the $500,000 is to bring the fire lane up to current code. And so the adjacent waste statute allows for dollars to be spent on safe ingress and egress to the campus, would not be allowed to be used for any on-site improvements that weren't related to that. New for this year is the adjacent ways funding has to be approved by the school's facility board, the state organization, and they did approve this portion of the project at their March board meeting.
So the whole 500,000 is going to be used to fix the fire lane? Or I'm just trying to make sure I understand it.
President Fisher, Ms. Tweedy, yes, it's the fire lane, the parking lot, the adjacent curb and gutter. So there's a detailed breakdown that I'd be happy to share with the board.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I did have a comment and a question. Comment was, I was very glad to hear that you're moving that common area where the kids were congregating away from 51st Avenue. So I was by the school a couple of months ago and noticed that, and it's actually better for them to be not breathing in all of the car exhaust going down 51st Avenue. And is there the expectation that with the improvements to Desert Sky that might result in some enrollment increase there?
President Fisher, Ms. Frank, yes, it's always our intention that we will make any improvements in these, we call them large-scale projects, that would make those choices more attractable, because we do operate in a very competitive environment.
Right.
But we also realize and have to understand that there is only a certain number of students that reside within a reasonable distance to these locations. So I don't think we're going to see a doubling of the population, and I'm using an exaggerated number for illustrative purposes, but yes, it is our intention that we will create a rejuvenation at these campuses. And we have some evidence of that from these modernizations, because this is not our first project, but they're not significant increases in enrollment, just to be frank.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 7B.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's and the Math Adoption Committee's recommendation to award RFP number 16-031-5 as listed on the solicitation results for high school math textbooks and supplemental materials for fiscal year 2017-18 with optional annual renewal for 4 additional years expiring June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Discussion? Is there any discussion? Ms. Tweedy?
I'm an advocate for an open and transparent budget process with community input, so it seems disingenuous for the board to approve spending close to $1 million 2 days before a public meeting to discuss the budget. I can't support the board making unilateral budget decisions without any input from the public with a deficit looming. I would like to suggest that we include this item as well as other priorities I've heard, because when we choose this, we're not choosing something else. And I've heard priorities about class size concerns. I've heard concerns about support at the campuses. I've heard support about I've heard concerns about not having enough interventions, not having enough social emotional support, and I would just like to say, we're going to end up having to vote on a balanced budget, but we're not asked to make the decisions on behalf of everybody without any input. And I mean, like, if you asked me what my personal priorities were, and you said you could have a textbook or increased intervention, I would pick intervention, but I spent most of my career as an interventionist, and I know that might not be reflective of the community at large. And as a governing board member, we represent the community at large when we make decisions. We don't represent just our own views. So I know we're going to come up with a budget, and regardless of the budget we come up with, there's going to be things that aren't funded. But I would at least like to get a handle on how all of the schools and employees, what are their priorities, rank them. At least have some idea of how people felt about this. And I think adopting this agenda, or adopting this item and spending in excess of $800,000 2 days before a public budget meeting without any input is fiscally irresponsible.
Well, we were informed at the previous budget work session that the district is facing a budget deficit in excess of $1 million. I don't know if that figure has changed since the work session. And I do respect the work of the Textbook Adoption Committee and everyone who worked together with that. I understand the current math materials require teachers to supplement, that they are not current as we would like them to be. But I also believe it would be fiscally irresponsible to approve an expenditure of this size without input from the Deer Valley community. We have many areas of need and we have finite resources. So I think it's critical for the board to take a look at the big picture and prioritize our spending before we vote to spend money. And it may be that this would end up being a top priority. I don't know. We haven't had that discussion. So I think it's really important for us as a board and incumbent upon us to look at the big picture before we start divvying up money on various textbook adoptions and things of that nature. So that's my 2 cents.
Mr. Macareno, can you share with us what funds are being used for this purpose? One of the things is we may have funds even if we don't adopt this, it doesn't mean this can go into a salary. Are these funds specific for this? Can you share with the board?
Sure. President Fisher, members of the board, we have allocated $2.3 million of capital funds in this year, fiscal year 17, for textbook adoptions. The discussion scheduled for Thursday is next year's budget, fiscal year 18. So this was a planned expenditure, and in terms of what was expected for this year.
So this is a capital outlay that's has already been discussed and is already in the budget. Not exactly to the coming year, the budget we're going to discuss on Thursday. Now,
Can I say a quick?
so I guess what I'm getting to is it would it's capital. It can only go to capital, but and it is currently in this year. So technically, we could roll over as long as we don't go over the percentage. But I did also get some conversation regarding concerns for math teachers. I'd like to know, I'm going to take us off the fiscal, so I guess this will be back to Gail. Where do our math teachers stand with this curriculum? I know when we did the Engage New York, it sent a wave through our math department. And I'd really like to know where our math teachers are, because ultimately they are the ones who are going to utilize this tool. And then, I'm sorry, and then we'll take what other questions there are.
President Fisher, members of the board, there were 3 vendors who came down to be the ones that our teachers reviewed. And we had a mixture of high school teachers who are on the committee. We also went out in our early release days and shared each of the videos. So we got survey results from teachers across each of the high school courses. One of the vendors, Pearson, came in over budget, even with us asking them to reduce the number of hard textbooks. Our high school teachers didn't feel that they needed the number of textbooks that Pearson said they had to have as part of the proposal that they gave us. The second one is the proposal that you have in front of you, and it had the best alignment to the Arizona state standards, whereas Pearson's was really a very nice online platform, but not as appropriately aligned to the Arizona standards. And we researched this with other districts who had also purchased all of these different textbooks across our state. The third vendor was of an open education resource, actually, eMath instruction. And what our teachers liked about that one was its ease of use. What they didn't like is it didn't have an online platform. Both Pearson and HMH, the two that did have an online platform, the teachers preferred having that ability to have that use with iPads. eMath instruction, however, uses PDFs. It can be used through the website, which is what our teachers have used this year, the ones that were trying that resource out. When we looked at the survey across the actual committee, who looked at the results from the teachers from our early release days, the comparable districts who gave us information and feedback on the information, I would say, and I'd have to have Kathy give me the actual percentage, but probably 50 plus of our teachers preferred the Pearson resource, and then the other 40 something preferred the HMH, and then the eMath instruction came in a little bit lower. Pearson came in at over 1.1 million, and we had asked both our math and our science adoption committees to work with the vendors that they had identified and ensure that we were under $1 million for each of those adoptions. So once, and we kept asking Pearson, please, this is what we want. We don't need extra hard textbooks in our 9th through 12th grade math courses. And for whatever selling reason that Pearson has, they continued to give us all of the hard textbooks as well as the e-licenses. HMH and the other vendors listened to us and went with the class sets that we asked for rather than textbooks for all, and then the e-licenses as well. So when we looked at the cost to our capital budget, and we sent all of this information again out to our committee, we settled on the proposal that you have in front of you, that is HMH, which in addition allowed us to provide the possibility of text resources for our 4th year math courses also. So that's how that decision was made. It was a fairly good split, other than a slight edge with Pearson, just because it has an absolutely beautiful online component, although it didn't align as nicely or as accurately with our Arizona state standards.
And Pearson didn't respond to please.
No, we
shocked.
asked at least 2 times. Okay. Kathy would have to let us know if we went in for
I'm
a
sure
third
you did.
time.
Yeah. Okay.
Ms. O'Brien, you had a question.
Mr. Miglerino, I apologize. Can you, the number you said we approved for this year's budget in textbook adoption was
$2.3 million.
Okay, and then the motion talks about $586,000 plus excluding tax and shipping. So, and Mrs. Tweedy's comments talk about somewhere between $800,000 and $800,000 to $1 million. So I just want to make sure I understand the number. Is it closer to $800,000 with tax and shipping, do we believe, or do we?
The difference between the.
It's not going to be $1 million. Is that correct?
This is probably outside of my realm, but the mic is closer to me. I believe the reference was to the science adoption at $800,000 to $1 million compared to the math adoption.
Oh, okay. And then I'm going to apologize ahead of time, but I know that we have an esteemed high school math teacher in the audience. I'd like to know what the impact would be if she's willing to answer the question to her without a math adoption. And if she doesn't want to, I'm just shake her head and I'll ask if
If
Dr.
She's willing, I would like to know, because I really would like
or
to know.
Or Dr. Galligan or Ms. Borgensen, what is the impact to the teacher, the math teacher in high school that wouldn't get an adoption? Sorry, what?
Hear from the teacher.
President Fisher and Ms. O'Brien, I'll defer to Kathy at the moment, and then I'll share my thoughts. And then if our math teacher would like to come up, we would appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
President Fisher, Ms. O'Brien, our math teachers have not had a curriculum resource adopted since 2009. So they've been patching together resources. It makes for an inconsistent delivery of mathematics in our high schools right now. Additionally, our core courses are a lot of times taught by our newer teachers, and in some cases our 8th grade teachers. And to have a resource is hugely helpful to them. Without sometimes having teams or just being new, it gives them that added extra support in the classroom.
Ms. Fisher, Ms. O'Brien, I would also add that when we look at our AZ merit scores across our elementary and then across our high school, because we don't have a resource that is aligned to the current Arizona College and Career Ready standards, we would want to see our AZ Merit math scores in our 3 end-of-course courses be higher than they are. Now, they increased from year 1 to year 2, but we are still far below in what we show in proficiency in high school than we are in elementary. That's not to say that it's only a resource that we are lacking. Of course, there are many other things that go into that with instruction, but a consistent resource across each of our courses would certainly give our teachers a much better opportunity to align across all classrooms in our high schools to the Arizona and college and career standards that are measured by AZ Merit.
Thank you so much.
Did the teacher want to speak?
Yes?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Tweedy.
First, now, if the money's not spent tonight, what happens to it?
President Fisher, Ms. Tweedy, the money, if it's not spent even in this year, we could carry that money forward into a future year.
And what could it be spent on?
It's designated as capital right now, and to be honest with you, through the budget process, through another budget process, so not in this year, but in a future year, that money could be reallocated for any legal purpose of the district.
Okay, and then the other question is, I heard mention that it was a huge technology component. Are there any additional technology expenses that weren't included in the information we received that we anticipate?
I need to defer to Dr. Galligan. I was not involved in the adoption.
Since our high schools are all tech-rich and all of the students have devices, it would not incur any additional digital devices being needed in the classrooms.
Well, I mean, I would just add in what you said about the AZ Merit, and I have some experience teaching math to students who struggle and wouldn't have done well on the AZ Merit. And I will tell you as a classroom teacher, and this is why I want to roll this out on a survey to the staff and get input. If you told me when I taught math, you could have a textbook or a smaller classroom or increased intervention materials, I would not have picked the textbook. So I'm just saying, but I do realize that I don't vote on behalf of myself, and that's why I would want to hear from other math teachers. I think I teach ELA without any textbook adoption, and I have no problem doing it. Now, that doesn't mean that reflects all teachers. So I would just like to put this and every other priority that seems to be significant out to the public before we spend the money. So that I just think we should get public input.
Ms. Ordway.
Dr. Galligan, what is the process that we follow when we are introducing that time to look at a new adoption of materials?
President Fisher and Ms. Ordway, we have a adoption process that we are bound by through statute, and we follow that process from the beginning, which is sending out requests for proposals from our vendors. We pull together interested stakeholders, including teachers and administrators and support staff and parents, when we can get parents to participate on a year-long committee. And then district staff, IS&T is part of that. We all look at the materials as they are aligned to a rubric that is aligned to our state standards, as well as, because we are a tech-rich district, to the technology requirements that we have for 21st century learning and skills. So beyond the textbook aspect of any of these vendors, we really also looked at that online component that would give our teachers a much better way of analyzing student results on formative assessments, being able to group students who may or may not have successfully shown mastery on a concept. We have not had that available to us, and we have that availability now with our iPads and the ability to use our learning management system and a vendor resource that gives us that opportunity to have our high school teachers actually group kids for small group instruction and intervention. That's one of the powers of our day and age now, when we look at what vendors are able to do with their resources and their platforms. And I'm going to ask Kathy to explain just a little bit more, because the process then goes to a 60-day review and adoption, but this was an RFP process, which is what we use at the high school level. So we have a different set of days and requirements for that. Kathy?
Yes, and as part of the process, we did, as Dr. Galligan mentioned, we did have all of our high school math teachers look at the products, all the semifinalists at an early release date, and we also had put out for public input, and it had our products on display in the governing board lobby out here as well to try to get, or try to allow an opportunity for everybody to have some input. We did actually increase our meeting times with our committee. We did some additional research. The committee wanted to look further at the digital components. I will share with you, one of gentlemen on our committee mentioned, he's been teaching a long time. He's pretty well, he does pretty well at adapting any curriculum, but what he said, what he was very impressed by was having a digital platform so that he could know where his students are at any time. He said it kind of does it, he feels like he should be able to walk into a classroom and know exactly where every student is at that time and be able to help that student in that moment rather than waiting weeks on down the line. That the teacher platform and resources were the most important to him.
Okay, because I just wanted to verify that math teachers had opportunity to not only see it, but to read about it and to put in their thought process about it. Because we had talked about this years ago to make sure that the teachers were given the availability and opportunity, whether they take that advantage is up to them, but so they could be more involved in the textbooks and resources. At that time, it was only textbooks that they were going to be using. So thank you very much for the process.
Understanding that we did have an extensive process seeking input from all stakeholders, did you receive any concerns from the community regarding this adoption?
President Fisher, we did not receive actually any input from our community, even though we did have that opportunity available for 2 weeks. So,
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Seeing none, let's call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 No. No.
It's 3-2.
You ready to go into the next one? I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve consent agenda items 8A through 8H.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Moving on to action item 9, human resource changes.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the human resources changes.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead and take the vote. I do want to clarify my vote when I do it, so if you want to do individual.
No.
It's not a discussion. I'm just clarifying what my vote is and why. So.
Or are we having a, I'm confused, are we
Are we
having a roll call
roll-calling?
vote? Is that what
Do a
you're
roll call vote if
suggesting?
you would like.
Okay.
Ms. Ordway?
I vote yes.
Aye. Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Last year on this item, this is our human resource changes this time of year includes all of our renewals. And last year at this time, I did abstain from voting for this because there was a stuff going on that was in question. And things occurred through the year. Immediately following the meeting of this last year, there was a small group of individuals under an anonymous guise set out to intimidate me and my family. Very upsetting. We had to get security for my son to go to school, security for my family. And throughout the year, various things happen as it does in every district. In February, we did receive a complaint that was going to have to be looked at and has been handled by administration. However, immediately following my request that it be, that there be an actual investigation, it was reported to me from family members that once again this group of anonymous individuals set out to do whatever, intimidate my family. So for the last several weeks, I've really thought hard about this item. You know, I could have an emotional no because I'm angry or hurt or upset. I can abstain because they're not going to win. But when it comes down to it, I value the staff of Deer Valley and I value the people in this district. Any individual who has ever come before me or has been something brought to me, I have requested they receive additional training, they receive additional support. I would never just want an individual to be non-renewed or without doing everything in our power to help them. And for that reason, regardless of whatever efforts this anonymous group is doing, security is still in place for my son, it is still in place for my family, but I am going to vote yes on this item because whatever issues anyone in our district has, as a district, we need to come together. We need to provide training for them, to help them, and for us to set the standard. And our employees are always a priority. And I wanted this explanation because I want whoever is out there doing what they're doing to know that we prioritize our staff and they prioritize their kids. My vote. 9B.
Turn my mic back on. Sorry. I move that the governing board approve the 2017 contract language for administrative exempt and...
You skipped one, Jenny.
That was next.
The board meeting date.
Let's go to B. Oh, you don't?
You didn't give me that.
Ms. Frank doesn't want board meetings.
The language.
Yeah. We're done with board meetings.
Can I make the motion? Just
Please
help-
make the motion.
I move
Go
that
right
the
ahead.
governing board approve the governing board meeting dates for the regular scheduled meetings for 2017 and 2018.
Second.
I'll second. Oh. Well, you can second too.
I've been really good.
Is there any questions, concerns, comments on the dates? Ms. O'Brien.
Thank you. In looking at the calendar, I noticed that in October we have only one date listed. Is there a reason that we're not meeting on October 24th? I couldn't find
Yes.
a day off or a holiday.
We actually took the second meeting date off because it is in direct conflict with the Mid-States Benchmarking Consortium meeting that the senior leaders have attended for the last few years. We believe it needs to be rescheduled. There can certainly be two meetings, but we would just have to find a date off of the regular meeting date for that, unless putting the date on there automatically disqualifies our district from participating.
And the other thing, when we were discussing removing that one date, the thought process, just so you know the reason, was because as a board we had agreed to have more study sessions, more conversation. A lot of districts have one per month, and the thought was that we could throw in additional meetings if needed. But I would hope by October we're well set into having regular discussions so that any business could be brought to one agenda. But if there's reason otherwise.
You just confused me.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate the explanation. In the past, a governing board meeting is usually on there unless there is a holiday for the district. So thank you. I don't want to prevent our district from participating in that consortium, so I just wanted to understand. So thank you so much.
Ms. Ordway?
I understand that the consortium date is there, but I didn't realize that we had conversation about moving towards having one meeting. And if we're not doing that, it doesn't matter. Let's just take care of this and move on to the next item.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now is the...
Now I move that the governing board approve. Isn't that the next one? Yes.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Okay.
Contract.
All right. I move that the governing board approve the 2017 contract language for administrative exempt and certificated contracts.
Okay, we do have one
Second.
public. Thank you. Sorry, Ann. We do have one public comment. Do you want to do it now or? Okay. You can go and step to the podium.
Okay.
Ms. Leyva.
The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary, to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda.
Please state your name for the record.
Maria Leyva, President of Deer Valley Education Association. Governing Board President Fisher, Governing Board Dr. Weitenheimer, guests. I draw your attention to page 99 of the PDF of the board book. In the certified manual, certified language rather, the certified contract language. First, before I go to that, it's very evident if you look at what's posted publicly, that there's a person's name that you can clearly read in the blacked out portion. I won't go, she knows who she is because she's already contacted us. Anyway, it's clearly visible to the public, the blacked out portion, and even more so when you view it electronically. But most of all, on the second page of our contract, because we do have 20 items, if I can draw your attention to number 13, it was regarding, there's some language there that is struck out. So for visual purposes, it's number 13. I was just wondering from a certified employee or potential certified employee, if this is going to remain as is for our contracts for next year. It looks very strange to have something struck out in a contract. And I'm wondering if this was done purposefully or maybe inadvertently. What message is it sending to the public or our future hires? Like, this is what we could do to you, but we are not. It's very confusing, and at the least, I don't think it looks very professional to have language that is struck out of a contract. Here's everything we could do, but we're not. I'm just wondering, from somebody who doesn't know our policy and doesn't potentially going to sign a contract, or we offer them a letter of intent, here's your contract, they might wonder why this language is appearing this way in our contract. So just for clarification, will it appear this way when we go to sign when our contracts are released at the end of this month, is my question to the board.
Thank you, Maria. Jenna.
Good evening, President Fisher, Governing Board members, Dr. Weitenheimer. So to address specifically Ms. Leyva's concerns regarding the contract, it was shared with you, I believe, in an update, and also I will note this evening that the attorney that made these recommendations did include liquidated damages in the contract, as that is something that is commonly recommended by that firm. And so we struck that out to show that we recommended that that be removed, as the governing board decided to not approve policy GCQC. And so that is struck out. That would not be included. It would not you would not see that language at all in a refreshed contract for an employee when we would offer the contract to an employee after you do approve these contracts. Specifically, what you have in front of you are 3 different types of contracts. One of them is a certificated contract, one of them is an exempt, professional exempt contract, and the third one is an administrative exempt contract. And so one thing I was going to point out to you was section or item 13 in that certified contract. The first sentence will still be there. We do want to point out, and it would be consistent for a contract to point out that it is a binding contract and we would want someone someone to fulfill their contract. However, there is no damage clause. We're suggesting that that be removed. In the other two contracts, you're going to see that under under the miscellaneous section, and it's item M3, we also would strike that out in those areas. We did consult with Aaron Brown also as he put this language together, and we would like to make the recommendation on the professional exempt contract. You're going to see that the days that they're requesting on this language is a 15-day turnaround. We would like to recommend that we stay consistent with our past practice, and he recommended that that would be perfectly acceptable. Our past practice for our exempt other professionals is to remain in the 15 business days along with our certificated, and the certificated is in statute, the 15 business days. That has been our past practice. Additionally, on the administrative side, it is the 30 calendar days. If you recall, I shared that information with you at the last governing board meeting. We would like to remain consistent with that for administrative exempt. And other than that, there is nothing different to point out to you in these contracts. We did have a question from a governing board member regarding contractual days. Standard is what you see in front of you, and that's a starting date and an ending date on a contract. The days in between are typically outlined in a work calendar. So for teachers, that is 185 days. In an administrative contract or administrative exempt contract could be different based on what is negotiated or based on what is presented in a work calendar. So for example, our CESs have negotiated to a 10 month contract. Even though they're certificated, they have extra days on their contracts, so their beginning and their end date are different.
Are there any other questions on this? No. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 This is the note.
I move that the governing board review and approve the desired profile for the recruitment and promotion of the superintendent vacancy.
Second.
Have a vote in a second. If we could get some information.
Good evening, Board. It's my pleasure to be here on behalf of Gary Ray. He expresses his regrets he couldn't make it this evening, so you have me all to yourself for any questions. Let's go over the documents. I've had documents handed out to you. I want to briefly go through those so you'll know what it is that you have. First off, for purposes, not for redundancy, but just to remind everyone, there's actual hard copy of the survey that was online, and I do have extra copies in case anybody in the audience does want to have a copy of that. You did get a great turnout. Last count was approaching 1,300. I don't have the final tally, but your employees really responded well to this survey. The next document will be explaining the survey, and then I have after that the raw data and the calculated data, which comes, the end result are the, what we plan to suggest will be the language of the profile itself embedded within the brochure or the flyer. Additionally, you have this packet, which was not sent to me electronically. I did ask for it to be placed into a zip file for the governing board, but was told that they couldn't do that. I guess there's something with the program at the main office. The font is small in here, so I think if you're like me, over 40, and eyes aren't getting any better, this is a tough read. However, I do ask that the governing board and superintendent review the comments in here, because one of the nice things about this type of survey, when you ask for comments, you get a lot of great comments in here, and it functions essentially as a climate survey, because there is a lot of information in here from your employees on not only what they want in a superintendent, but what they see are some real needs within the district. So I saw this as really important feedback. A lot of our searches that we do, you don't always get this kind of volume, so you're really lucky, or maybe unlucky, I'm not sure, but certainly you did get a great feedback from your staff. And then the other document is the actual narrative of what we're recommending from the survey, and last is a copy of the flyer. There was an error that was pointed out to us earlier, and that will be fixed where the core competencies are not listed. So let's back up then. And you should have, I hope my voice lasts here. I'm dealing with allergies, this early warmth or something, and I'm gasping here. So in any event, what you have coming up are the 33 characteristics explanation, the report. And if you pair that alongside the data, you can follow along here. And I think we're ready for the next slide here. Yes. This 33 characteristics, the survey, as we've explained before, is a result of Ray and Associates' conscientious effort over the years to fine-tune a survey instrument that, generally speaking, provides the board and staff and administrators with an opportunity for good input across a wide number of areas of supervision and expectations and attributes for a superintendent. When we get that raw data, what we try to do is take the raw data so that it's weighted in such a way that what you have, and the raw score sheet has all of the data that was entered in there, and you can see that people have an opportunity to weigh in on these 33 characteristics, and no one group holds any sway or weight over the other. In other words, the governing board, if you look at the last column, which is titled Board of Education, you can see where you ranked it, where you ranked these characteristics, and you can see that there's no added weight or plus factor to your scores. So they're embedded within a larger document that included your teachers, administrators, support staff, parents, students, and non-parent community members, and others. And I didn't add those up, but you'll see that if you add them up, you get about the number hopefully the number that I said did respond. So what we do is spread these across this matrix here and analyze pretty much based on the scores which are the characteristics that rise to the surface, and ones that we will recommend to you that seem to be the ones that in general you have a consensus on what it is people would like to see on that flyer with respect to the job job description or expectations of the board and the superintendent. So as you look at this, this doesn't mean that the board can't change it. Our suggestions on the recommendation sheet that you did receive, and that would be the next sheet coming up, this is the consultant ranking and recommendation sheet. What we tried to do is go through there and make a decision, and this is a PDF, and it shows our recommendations and calculations in here whenever there were some scores that were close. In other words, there were quite a few people that had, they marked the same ones as number one. We made a decision based on where that would be. If two of them seemed to be similar or close, then we would combine them and come up with a recommendation for you so that you had an opportunity, you have the opportunity to see how it tallies up, then you have an opportunity to see how we looked at it. That doesn't mean the governing board can't add a characteristic that's on here or an attribute. It just means that based on the raw data that we accumulated, these are the items that we see as the best fit, and it dovetails nicely into those responses that you got on the survey. Does everybody follow along so far? Okay. So when we finished that, we came up with the narrative piece, which basically says, and that's the next sheet coming up, that if you, let's see, what you have there is a consultant ranking. What you have here is essentially all of the recommendations we were making to you based on that survey, what we're saying is that this is what your flyer looks like when it comes to describing your expectations for a superintendent. And we're recommending, as you can see on there, that number one, possesses excellent people skills, presents a positive image of the district, and will listen to input and make a decision when necessary. That combined 1 and 15. Next was inspires trust, has high levels of self-confidence and optimism, and models high standards of integrity and personal performance. Is a strong communicator, speaking, listening, and writing. Has knowledge of and successful experience in sound fiscal practices and management of district resources, including appropriate participation of others in planning and decision-making. This is a combined 10 and 14 on those skills or attributes. Is able to delegate authority appropriately when maintaining accountability. Is strongly committed to a student-first philosophy in all decisions. Has experience in the selection and implementation of educational priorities consistent with the interests and needs of students, staff, board, and community. Promotes positive student behavior. It should be conducive to a healthy learning environment. Has demonstrated strong leadership skills in previous positions. Makes recommendations and decisions that are data-driven. And two that we're asking that you consider based on the scores we received, raw data, is committed to the importance of both the academic and activity programs, which was item number 21, is able to lead a large organization dedicated to goals of continuous improvement, which was item 28. Any questions? Great.
Are we just listening now and then giving input, or how do you want to do that?
I actually like the input as we move along. That would be great.
I would say let's go ahead and give the input because it's our first look at it, but.
Okay, can I?
Yes, let me sort of.
If there's a point for clarification, certainly.
We'll just, and I'm sure somebody will catch this besides me, where it says promote the positive student behavior, I think the word is conducive, not conductive. That's just one thing. And then on the bottom where it says is able to lead a large organization dedicated to goals of continuous improvement, we don't use continuous improvement as a goal. We use continuous improvement to reach our goals. So is able to lead a large organization based on continuous improvement to reach district goals.
Okay.
Or even just on a continuous improvement model.
Right.
Something of that nature.
Just.
Yeah. And I know there were some minor edits done by our administration. Are those encompassed in here as well? The edits that were recommended?
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure because it said on the agenda item that we're going to approve something, and I don't want to approve something and then go, oh, well, and then go backwards. So that's the only reason I'm doing this.
So if I'm understanding correctly, there were edits that were made that were to be, you mean on the survey itself? The wording of it?
On the flyer.
On the flyer, okay. Yeah, what you have is the hard copy. I did not get the corrected one.
Do we have a list of what those edits were? So that we can
Yes.
know?
I believe Kelly did transmit the corrected one.
The edits are the correction of conducive from conductive, and at the bottom under the requirements, we corrected the apostrophe in Arizona's prior to superintendent.
An additional correction or addition or adjustment that's required is going to be on the front page in the white section just above the mission statement. I appreciate Ms. O'Brien calling, saying that the sentence says, in line with our mission, DVUSD provides quality in the following core competencies, and there is nothing behind that. So either the district's core competencies need to be put there, or the sentence needs to be eliminated. So I don't know which.
I did ask the front office. They have received that, and they are going to enter that in there. And I believe that should have already been entered. Am I correct? I don't know, Kim, if you
We don't have that updated copy, and I would prefer to have it added as opposed to removing that line, because I do think it is important for candidates who might be considering us to understand that. So Thank you.
And that can easily be done.
And this may just be semantics, but under deadline and selection, it says, the second sentence where it says which board review in a closed session, I would prefer an executive session, because if you're reading that from the public and it says closed section,
looks different.
it sounds like we're doing something in secret, and we don't do that stuff, so
Okay, no.
that's just that.
So with those edits to the actual flyer itself, the amended flyer would be taken care of tomorrow morning, actually.
Well, my other concern, Dr. Weidenheimer just pointed out, you have, under the deadline and selection, second sentence says, after all applicants have been reviewed, preliminary interviews conducted by consulting firm, names of finalists will be presented to the Deer Valley District Governing Board. That's not in line with what our process that we had outlined was. We're meeting on,
Second.
yeah, to review all applications, not just finalists. So we will
Yes,
actually be viewing all.
What I'm thinking that their intent is is that we oversee that particular aspect of it, not actually conducted. We can edit that so that it more accurately
I
reflects.
would prefer that we edit it, because I think the candidates need to be aware that the board will be reviewing all applications.
What we do is conduct a screening matrix and
Correct.
pull in, just your standard human resources process where we
Right.
do the screening process and then make a decision on which ones that we would recommend that the governing board interview, but it doesn't eliminate or preclude access for all the applications.
Right.
But I think when it says present us the finalists, it sounds like
Yes,
that's the end of
agree.
that. So maybe
Right.
finalists doesn't need to be in there.
Correct, and I believe that this board has pretty much been in agreement that we want to see all, so that we can be in part of that screening. Ms. O'Brien?
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. I guess in that screening matrix that would be used, I wouldn't want to see all, in the sense if there's somebody that doesn't meet the qualifications. So if there are, I looked on the flyer, it says you must be, I think, have a superintendent's certificate. They would eliminate those. I just want to make sure.
Part of our discussion, well, I don't know how much of our discussion we can share. It was an executive session, so we can't. But, oh, no, you're right, it wasn't.
The
It was a
study
study
session.
session. Part of what we discussed is, because, let's just take the superintendent certificate.
Okay.
If we were to get a fabulous business leader who could get a superintendent certificate in the course of a month, would we want to exclude them based on the fact that they didn't have their certificate at the time of application? And I think, and because we did talk about, I'm not really sure who mentioned it, the potential for having, the potential open to others. Ms. Tweedy?
I would want to exclude someone. I mean, you can't accept the position without a certificate, right?
No, that's not accurate. The board can,
Can you legally be a superintendent without a superintendent?
yes,
You'll
you
get
can.
one.
You'll get one, but.
You can.
Okay, President Fisher and members of the board, looking at this, let me explain what Bray and Associates does, because I think that'll clarify the language. What we do is we do interview everyone who's applied, because we get any number of people who apply, and we interview and then do background checks to verify that what they've put on there. We do a preliminary screening, if you will. So what we're doing is not weeding out the individual that may get a certificate, because in many cases in a letter of introduction or in other somewhere else on the application they've indicated as such. So our interview, quote unquote, consists of vetting those kinds of things out and then putting together a group that we believe represent the best of the pool, and it saves you from doing all of that vetting or interviewing, that preliminary screening stuff. I think that's what this language refers to. At the same time, If, you know, the board, and most boards do want to see the master list. Let's say you have 60 applicants, which is not unlikely. When I did Gilbert had nearly 100. So what we did was winnow it down to an acceptable number that we were willing to actually make phone calls and reach out to, and we came up with 12 people. But the board, in this case, that board and many other boards, want to see the master list of all that applied, and they may have questions, and they certainly, that's their prerogative. We're ready to do that. So this doesn't say you don't have that. We're just trying to save you the basic screening process by doing that. So I think that's what this refers to. In fact, I know that's what it refers to.
I'm good with the basic screening so long as we see all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have a further question then on the topic of the superintendent credentials, because this flyer does say that the candidate must have a superintendent credentials. So if we are, as a board, going to be willing to look at a candidate that is either in the process of getting their credentials or may get their credentials, I don't know if we want that language on there. I'm just, because I saw it, I wanted to put that out there for you all.
Will that be required within, James, did you have to get yours when you got here?
Yes, I had to get certified in the state of Arizona to be here. So I actually had to take courses and get certified. So whoever takes this job may not be currently certified, but they have to get that way.
How long does that
Arizona.
take? If you knew something about it, a little bit, right? How long does it take to get certified?
Where's Christy Bushnell?
I don't know. That's
we worked on that for probably the first
6 months.
few months,
Yeah.
because it was trying to remember what the two courses were. Arizona history was one, and
it's usually
don't ask me about
Constitution
anything.
and things that.
And
Probably Arizona Constitution.
Yeah, President Fisher, members of the board,
Couple
I
of theirs.
believe that
So-
turnaround process.
Have to have it done by? State doesn't mandate any time.
I don't remember ever that happening.
I would just request that if we're going to, that terminology maybe be rephrased so that we're not eliminating somebody that is not.
I would agree with Ms.
currently
O'Brien. We need
credentialed.
to say either that they have a certificate or are able to obtain a certificate.
Able to obtain, I would
Right.
suggest that as
Because
well. Right.
when I was looking into a superintendency certificate, the criteria, if you're already in that type of position, it's not an extensive. Couple courses and a test.
I do have a question. The front of the flyer, the very last line, and it's late, my allergies have been kicking up, so maybe it's something I'm missing. It says, in line with our mission, DVUSD provides quality in the following core competencies, but that's the end of the paragraph.
That's what they're going to put in.
No.
As I said, my allergies have been kicking up. Okay.
Got that one taken care of.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Just wanted to double check.
It might be the same Benadryl pill I had to take in order to get
Benadryl.
to even speak, actually. Yes, that will be corrected, and I think adding the able to obtain. Once again, as part of our vetting process or initial screening interviews, we ask those questions as to whether or not they have a physical certificate, they're in the process of getting it or can get it. So we attempt to find out everything we can about an individual.
I'm just thinking, we do have a study session on Thursday. Is the board comfortable with voting to approve this based on our discussed changes? Or would the board like to see final product? We could potentially, we're still within our 24-hour window, throw on a quick agenda item to.
I would rather sit here tonight and hash this out and not mix
Make
things
sure we
on
have
Thursday
that.
for the
Okay.
budget.
Right. I also wouldn't want to lose any days for,
Right,
really, it's just 2, but.
okay.
Well,
So,
2 in the life of looking for this is, we're
and
already
it needs to
behind.
be going sooner rather than later. So is there any other edits besides what we've already discussed that somebody wants to have? No? Okay.
When we said will be able to, how about just will obtain a superintendent certificate? Not will be able to, because, yeah, we'll do it. It'll be done.
Yes, we would add there that they would have the superintendent credential or able to obtain that credential as required.
Well, I don't want it to say able to. I want them to do it. Like if they get hired, then
Or
they
will
do it.
obtain.
Okay. Anyone else? Nope. Seeing no other comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Give me all the edits. Okay. Let me verify those. Thank you for coming, Mike.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
You also, Madam, before I leave the stage, Madam President, you also have the actual search timeline with the amended dates on there. I understand there were some edits made ahead of my arrival here. I'm not certain if that's the case.
We needed to change one thing, didn't we, James? Didn't you tell me that?
Just so you all know, one of the things that we discussed whenever we were trying to lay out the original timeline was the second meeting in May, with the goal of trying to announce the finalist, the selected person. The date of that is May the 22nd on the old calendar, but we changed that a number of months ago to the 30th. And the reason that we did that is because 8th grade promotion is on the 22nd, with a graduation on the 23rd, and that being one of the most fabulous things board members get to do, we moved the meeting off of that day. We moved it to the backside, of course, at the time not knowing anything about what was coming in May. So we're going to have to do something about a May gathering if in fact you want to announce the new superintendent while employees are here. If you wait until the 30th to do it, they're gone. So it's not a problem or an issue we have to resolve tonight. I'm just telling you it's something that we're going to have to work out. And it's a little bit complicated because the way we have to move the board meeting, the promotion day, and then the split graduation dates in 2 separate weeks. So just if you can't sleep tonight, look at the calendar and
where we moved stuff.
Start making a proposal. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll if you can't sleep tonight, look at the calendar and
where we moved stuff.
Start making a proposal. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll summarize all of that so you can kind of get your brain around that, and we'll look for some options.
So for clarification, we may be looking at changing some of these dates. Is that what I'm hearing? Because we have the 22nd, which is the all-day session.
No, we're actually talking about when we're done through this process. We're talking about the final,
Okay.
the announcement.
Okay.
Or the approval. And then
Okay.
we'll have to find a date and make that adjustment, but Ms. Redding will.
Your
communicate
dates
with
are
us.
all good. Your dates are all good.
Okay, all
Well,
right.
it's the TBD date that we had in our own head that we are going to have to
Right,
make
okay,
an adjustment.
understood. Okay, great. Well, I want to thank everyone and hope you have a pleasant evening, and thank you for choosing Rain Associates.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I lost my agenda. Okay. On to our draft employee benefit committee recommendations. Mr. Micarino?
President Fisher, members of the board, Dr. Weidenheimer, I intend to be brief, but there are some edits to the benefit committee. I want to thank my friends on the negotiation solution team committee. They were able to catch some edits that we were able to provide, as well as we got a late renewal on our life insurance, which is included in the information I'm about to present. just wanted to recognize the committee members. This is not an easy task. You're trying to, make decisions for the entire district about a benefit offering. One of the many things that people look forward to as part of their employment, and they also have personal interests at stake as well. So it's a difficult balancing act, and sometimes, well, again, this year we had some difficult choices to make. The committee did meet 4 times. You can believe me that we met 4 times, and came through or worked through several different options before coming up with a recommendation. The catalyst for what you're about to see happened to be that the renewal rate ended up being almost 6.5% based on 2 major factors. Our claims experience, so we're spending more than our premium contribution, and medical inflation, both on the care side as well as on the prescription side. And so that's almost 6.5% was nearly $1.5 million. And we shared with the benefit committee where we were in the budget process, so that was taken into consideration as they developed this recommendation. So kind of an overarching philosophy of the benefit committee was to try and keep the benefit offering, at least an option for the benefit offering, to have as minimal of an impact to the employees as possible. Sometimes characterized as saying that we were trying to keep it as the same as it is currently. And so there were several different options. Difficult to do. Well, the easy way to do that is just add $1.5 million to our expense line, and that would have been the case. But the committee actually looked at a lot of creative solutions, and I wanted to give credit to the committee for spending some time looking at various options. And they settled on some options, and I'll kind of go through these just in an overall, at kind of a high level, just in the interest of time. But no change to the schedule of benefits. So the co-pays and deductibles will remain the same. Again, trying to keep the benefits as consistent from year to year. Narrowing the providers when it comes to prescriptions. The pharmacy has become a very competitive environment, and consequently, if we eliminate some of the providers, we can negotiate deeper discounts with the providers that we do keep. This was narrowing or eliminating 3 different provider as options. This is a offering that United Healthcare suggested for us. This would eliminate CVS, Safeway, and Costco as an option for it counting against or the deductible for employees. They could still get the scripts filled there if they chose to. It just wouldn't be part of our plan. And that's, by the way, that's the way it works at Costco. They don't accept insurance. It just wouldn't be part of your, wouldn't go towards your deductible. We continue to provide the HSA plans, both offerings, the high deductible plans, at no cost to the employees, and keep the 2-for-1 contribution into the HSA employee accounts. So for every dollar they put in, we put in $2 up to a capped amount, depending on the plan. We're going to incorporate what United Healthcare calls is Navigate as an option. There are 5 major players for our health insurance services. The Navigate option would eliminate 2 of them, Mayo and Banner Health, and 64% of our claims are processed through the other 3 major ones, Honor Health, which is a big player just due to the proximity, Abrazo, and Dignity Health. So those 3 would be part of the Navigate plan. Mayo and Banner would not be part of the Navigate option, and that would be an option for employees to choose. If they wanted to include Mayo and Banner, they could. It would be at the employee's choice, and that would be a $20 per month payroll deduction that we can do for them on a pre-tax basis. The other nice thing that this provided, and the benefit committee thought this was certainly something that would be well received by those that that elect for dependent care, it does provide a decrease to, or at least an option for a decrease for employees to choose on dependent care. We only have 2 tiers, so it's basically employee or family, meaning that all dependents would be covered. And that increase, or that option, the Navigate option, would provide a potential decrease in dependent coverage for employees if that option works for them. The Navigate option does have a tool that you can check your doctor to see if they are part of the Navigate network, and the benefit committee members did test that, and we were surprised to find that some doctors that were right across the street from Thunderbird Hospital, which is a banner facility, are covered under the Navigate option. So that was encouraging to us. The other major difference on the Navigate option, again, this would be an option that the employees would choose, is it is what's referred to as a gatekeeper plan, meaning that you have to see your primary care physician to get a referral to a specialist. Again, if the employee didn't like that option, or their doctor wasn't a Navigate provider or covered under that plan, they could choose for the option to have the more broad network and not have to get a referral, but it would be at their expense, the $20 per month. The rest of the benefits really remained the same, with a couple exceptions. The Cigna Dental plan will no longer be offered. We currently have 3 dental offerings: Assurant, Delta Dental, and Cigna. We're able to pick up a plan on the Delta Dental that mirrors the Cigna Dental plan, and so we'd like to just minimize those plans from an administrative standpoint, as well as it can be confusing to employees to pick between multiple plans. The change I have for you tonight, and reporting it in all caps, we originally said there would be no change to rates or coverage on the life insurance plan, but we are able to take advantage of a rate reduction that was negotiated by Valley Schools just yesterday. It's not a huge decrease. It only saved the district about just under $12,000, but still it would help, because these rates would also be available to those that pick voluntary coverage at their expense. So we certainly want to take advantage of that. Slight increase excuse me, on the SRS contribution. We have that built into our budget projections, and the cost would be split between a portion of the cost being funded from the Valley Schools Employee Benefit Trust reserves. We provided you with the 5-year running total of our ending net position for the Valley Schools Employee Benefit Trust. And you'll see that there is some volatility in that, because we are self-insured. So, you know, some years we've increased by $2 million, and some years we've decreased by $3 million. This year we're projected to see another decrease. But there are some reserves that we can tap into. This would be shared between a portion of it coming from the Valley Schools Employee Benefit Trust reserves, and a portion of it being realized as part of the $20 that the employees would opt for if they wanted the broader network and didn't have to seek the referral from their primary care physician, if they chose not to enroll in the Navigate. So we feel that the Benefit Committee feels that this gives the greatest flexibility for our employees to elect what coverage would be most appropriate to them, also provide a means to bend or alter the course of our claims experience to maybe realize some discounts by narrowing the network, especially the pharmacy prescription coverage, so that we can realize some better loss ratios in the upcoming year. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
What does the 1.5% for the PPO equate to employees? What dollar amount? I thought you said the PPO premiums a few slides ago were increasing 1.5%. Yeah. Oh, is that $20 a month? Oh, you were just, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, just trying to put it in perspective there. That's $20 a month.
Okay.
And again, that would be pre-tax, so that would, net check would be less than $20, assuming they have some sort of tax liability. And so there's also, this gets a little bit complicated, that we have some employees hired after the year 2012 that are currently buying up to the PPO plan. So we offer to employees after 2012, we offer them the HSA plan at no cost to them. The PPO is an option for them to buy up to. There's a 1.5% increase for that group, so that everybody is sharing in that option to have the non-navigate or the more rich benefit, not just what they're currently paying, but in addition the $20. So if you're hired after 2012, you're already paying for the PPO plan, there'll be an additional cost to you, just as there are for anybody that was hired before 2012 on the PPO plan, and they're currently not paying anything for that. They will see an increase, the $20.
Okay. And then what is the dependent premiums will increase by an average of 6.65 on current plan. So what would that equate to if someone stays with the current plan?
President Fisher, Ms. Tweedy, I believe that's about 70, it's about 86.
I'm just curious if you don't have it.
I don't have that information in front of me. From memory, it's about $63 on 700 and some odd dollars that they're paying. We can certainly provide that information. That 6.65% is a blended amount. So on the PPO, it's about 7.9%, if memory serves me. On the HSA accounts, it's about 5.4%. So the 6.65 for the current plans means that, it could be more on the PPO. The PPO plan is a more rich benefit, more benefit-rich plan. On the HSA, it's not quite as expensive. The Navigate, I'll call it item A, sub-item G, is the decrease. So you could see as much as a 4.1% reduction if you choose the Navigate option as somebody that has dependent care, or dependent coverage.
Okay. And I would just be curious to see if you have it available. I don't even know if this exists, but a link of providers. I'm trying to figure out how restricted those employees' options are with the Navigate plan and compared to other plans.
President Fisher, Ms. Tweedy, there isn't a list, but there is a link that we can provide so somebody can actually type in their doctor's name and find out if they are a member of the Navigate. And we could provide that link to you, but there's not a list, like a network directory.
Okay, and maybe there's no way to get this information. I guess my concern would be, and I don't even know, I would just be curious as to how restrictive the choices are on one plan versus other. I mean, the hospitals, I heard what you said, but I'm just not sure how much this restricts somebody to. I just remember one time I had an insurance product and it was the worst experience ever. I think 5 people in the state took it, but I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I couldn't. And then when you would call, you couldn't get in a timely fashion because there were just so few providers, and everyone that had that plan had to, and it was a nightmare. I couldn't get rid of it quick enough. So I just wanted to know that.
Okay, Ms. Ordway.
Mr. Migliorino, for Thursday, if you could have the increased cost of the benefits for us that we're going to have to take out of the budget or predict for the budget that the district's paying. Are we paying anything extra into this over what we usually pay?
Yeah, President Fisher, Ms. Ordway, we're projecting $600,000, so it's item H on the second page of the presentation.
And that's total for every portion of the benefit plan, so.
I'm sorry, that's just for the medical plan.
Okay.
And I'm saying projected because it depends on migration, how many people opt for the Navigate plan. If they opt for the Navigate plan, then we expect the claims to be reduced because it's a more narrow network. If they opt for the non-Navigate plan, the current plan, I'll call it, then that amount could be reduced because they're going to be contributing $20 towards the premium cost per month.
Right. I was just trying to figure out how much reserves we're really going to have reserved, because that goes against us when we continue to take money out of reserves. So
Yeah, so just in terms of relative comparison for the budget, we're showing a $0 increase for the medical plan based on this recommendation.
Right.
And just relative to what we put into this year, we were expecting about $650,000 to be taken from the reserves. And it's going to be, at this point in time, it looks like it's going to be more than that, but that is a projection based on December claims.
thank you.
Ms. Frank?
To get back to Ms. Tweedy's point, will employees have the opportunity to check and see if their doctors are on Navigate? We'd be sending the link out to them. So I know if it were me, I would make the decision based on whether or not my doctors were on the plan. So will they have the opportunity to check that before they select their healthcare provider? Or their insurance plan,
President
I guess I should
Fisher,
say.
Ms. Frank, certainly they would. We have not provided that to them as of yet. We have the benefit committee, and I think they have maybe extended that to some close friends to make sure that we get a little bit more data than just their own personal provider. But we have a complete rollout strategy, which includes having payroll and benefit staff at mandatory staff meetings because of the level of changes that were being proposed here, and we would certainly make the link available. We could make the link available to them now. We just don't want to do so in advance of the board's action, because if the board doesn't approve the Navigate option, it's a moot point.
I get that. I would just hate for someone to sign up for a plan and then discover, if you get my drift.
Oh, yeah,
my
and
doctor's not on it, and I didn't know, and you would get the phone call. I wouldn't. Well,
no, it's a very good point, but we do know the tool exists. We have tested the tool, and certainly that will be part of. We want people to make informed decisions. We want the option, but we're not trying to add confusion to this.
Right.
What we're trying to create is pick which plan you want, or whether it's an HSA or PPO, and then you have one more decision to make, because you always had to have make that decision, and that decision is, am I comfortable with a more narrow network?
Mm-hmm.
And check my provider, know that I'm going to have to see a primary care physician for a referral on a specialist, and have that information available to them as they're making that decision during open enrollment. We tentatively have open enrollment scheduled between the 10th of April and the end of April. I think it's the 28th.
Mm-hmm.
And during that period of time, they would have participated in a meeting, a staff meeting, where this will be shared by the folks from payroll and benefits. And then we also have 2 lab settings scheduled at our large labs. So people that want to complete their open enrollment with the assistance of our payroll and benefits staff will be able to do so on 2 separate occasions. So we do have a whole rollout strategy involved. Of course, this is just a preview item at this point in time, so we need additional feedback to make sure that we don't need to make other adjustments to this benefit offering. It is dependent on the board making a decision on the March 28th meeting. And we do, and I'm not trying to put pressure on the board by any means, but want to be able to make sure that there's a timing issue in terms of all of the activity that happened between now and, let's say, the end of school, which seems like it could be a long way away, but when you look at a calendar, it's quickly approaching.
Okay. I think you more than answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one more thing, Mr. Michelino, and you don't even have to answer it tonight. If you can just bring it back, either let us know in a Friday update or something. This $600,000 that we're taking out of our reserves, I know we have a strong trust. I did look at the trust documents that you had sent, and having done benefits before, I can realize that we have them, but also it's not sustainable to continue to take money from especially if your experiences are off. And right now we are in nationally an insecurity of where our benefits are going to go, what the repeal of Obamacare may look like, what the new programs may look like. I know I have spoke with multiple individuals who do benefits administration and see if they've heard anything. No one, everybody's kind of uneasy, but nobody has anything definitive. If you could just give us an idea, anything that Valley Schools feels that we may be aware of, or a thing that we need to know, because even with a $9 million trust, we end up taking $600,000, and then there's a repeal of Obamacare, or the other direction, there's not a repeal, and we end up with our premiums doubling, which did occur when Obamacare rolled out. And so I just think we need perhaps a what-if scenario if they have anything that they're seeing regarding premiums that may change for us, so that we can just have an idea as we plan forward.
President Fisher, that's a great point. In fact, we do have scheduled on the 28th an opportunity for the Valley Schools officials to be here to make a presentation about the Valley Schools operation. So we'll make sure that we include that in that report. And to your point about the use of the reserves, it is something that the Benefit Committee does look at. And one of the things that we found with, we have a new actuarial this year, same company, just a different person. He comes to us from Nevada. And we are looking at options to be able to invest money, from the reserves to be able to provide a better benefit at a better price. I'll just kind of tease it a little bit there. Really what we're looking at is he's been able to implement on-site clinics in his past experience, and with some great success. So that's something that we, as the Benefit Committee continues to look at this, those are things that we think could actually help us make an investment, provide a better benefit to our employees, increase presenteeism and all those kind of things, and control those costs. But it takes somebody with some knowledge and expertise that has done this to be able to incorporate that. So that's something that the Benefit Committee is working on.
I'm glad to hear that.
Ms. Fisher?
Any other questions? Ms. O'Brien?
One last comment. I really would like to express my sincere gratitude to the committee for working together and coming up with a creative solution and providing the best possible options to our employees while still being fiscally responsible. So thank you so much for that.
All right. We do have a couple of public comments. If I can get them up to the podium, I have a Roger Hartzog and Jerry Dobbs. Ms. Frank, can you read one more time just in case they weren't in the room at the time?
Sure. The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary, to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda.
Please step up to the podium, state your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Roger Hartzog. I am the manager of a large community in North Phoenix called Stetson Valley. I don't know if you're familiar with Stetson Valley. Most of you probably are. Stetson Valley was built in 2005 and continued to develop over the years in spite of the recession that we were going through. We had several parcels that continued to be developed and brought into the community. And over that time, the community, at least according to the demographer's report that has been provided to you all through your buildings capacity and use committee, I believe, that community has sustained its student registrations over the years. And that same report has also projected student registration to increase in the Stetson Valley area. Given that, the board of directors of the Association for the Community and residents in the community have some questions about the planning and where things are going with some property that is owned by Deer Valley's Unified School District. I have a little photograph here, aerial photograph of the community, and Stetson Valley extends from 49th Avenue on the east to 59th Avenue on the west, and from Stetson Valley, from Happy Valley up to the Cap Canal. Right in the middle of the community here, we have two very large vacant lots of about 15 acres each. The one on the south is owned by, or at least deeded in the name of the City of Phoenix Parks, Recreations, and Libraries, and the one on the north is to the Deer Valley Unified School District. These have been vacant from the very beginning, so over 10 years now since the development started. And so these two areas down here that you see vacant on this photograph are now under development by Pulte Group. So the question that we have is, what is the long-term plan, or even the short-term plan, for this vacant parcel, 15-acre parcel, in the middle of this community? Right now it represents a problem for us because it creates a lot of dust in the community. Dust devils go across there and then just take the dust over through the community. And then we also have lots of insects, rodents, and then with the rodent populations expanding out into the community, they attract coyotes into the middle of the community as well. So the question that we have is there a plan for this? And is that in a report somewhere that I might be able to get and report back to the community?
Your time is up. We cannot respond to you, however, we can ask that Mr. Miglerino speak with you. So if you want to hang out afterwards, you can exchange information, and if you could also provide the board just an update on the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jerry Dobbs, President Fisher, board members, Dr. Weitenheimer. I wanted to first apologize for going over my time last time. I wasn't watching the clock and I didn't realize that my time had run out. I just had a quick thing that I'd like to finish at the moment. During an action that was done a couple of years ago, obligations were made by the Deer Valley School District and the Superintendent, Dr. Weitenheimer, which has not satisfied that as of yet by making the public statement and announcement. Therefore, the action is not completed, so we can move on to other things. And I would like to ask the board if they could look into that and ask Dr. Weitenheimer, since he's getting ready to leave, if he could possibly finish that so that action will be behind us and we can move on to other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbs. All right. Future meetings are posted. If I can get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a wonderful evening.